It was a scorching afternoon when I decided it was time to close my ranch pool for maintenance. The sun was blazing, and the chlorine levels needed balancing after a week of heavy use. Guests had already been warned, signs were posted, and everything was under control. Yet, as soon as I flipped the lock on the gate, Karen appeared like a whirlwind, shouting that closing the pool was illegal and against HOA rules. I watched through the security cameras as she immediately pulled out her phone and began dialing 911, screaming about the pool closure emergency to anyone who would listen. Her logic was absurd. She claimed that closing a private pool on my private property somehow violated HOA rules and endangered the community spirit. What she didn't know was that her interference was about to cost the HOA and her millions. I activated the PA system over the pool area. "Karen, you are trespassing. This is private property, and the pool is closed for maintenance. Any attempt to interfere will be considered harassment and trespassing." Karen ignored me, continuing her frantic phone call. Meanwhile, my legal and security systems were already logging her every action. The HOA bylaws had been meticulously reviewed by my attorney, and I had filed prior notices regarding maintenance schedules, giving me full legal coverage to act as I saw fit. Suddenly, my automated alerts pinged. The county's code enforcement office had been notified of an HOA violation. By claiming authority over a private pool, Karen had inadvertently triggered a regulatory review of HOA oversight powers. It was determined that the HOA had overstepped its legal authority, exposing them to a fine of $2.5 million for attempted unauthorized interference with private property rights. Karen's panic escalated as she realized the severity of her mistake. Deputies arrived within minutes, not for me, but to observe the HOA member causing the disturbance. Surveillance footage clearly showed Karen entering private property without permission and attempting to assert authority she legally did not have. "Ma'am," said a deputy firmly, "you are trespassing on private property. Your claims of HOA authority here are invalid. Any further interference could result in additional legal consequences." Karen tried to argue, waving her clipboard and pointing at the pool. "I'm enforcing community rules. I'm protecting the neighborhood." The deputies simply shook their heads. The documentation I provided, maintenance schedules, legal filings, and recorded warnings, made it impossible for her to claim authority. Her frantic calls, intended to pressure me, only strengthened my case. By the time the day ended, the pool was closed and secured, the guests were safe, and Karen had inadvertently triggered a $2.5 million fine against her HOA. Neighbors who had observed the chaos were stunned. Karen had believed she could enforce rules arbitrarily and intimidate me into compliance, but instead, she caused significant financial and legal damage to the HOA she claimed to represent. Karen was humiliated. Her cell phone, filled with frantic 911 calls, had documented her trespassing and false claims. The HOA board was notified, and her privileges were permanently revoked. Attempts to intimidate me had spectacularly backfired, and the incident served as a clear warning to the community. No overzealous HOA member could interfere with private property without consequences. Karen had thought calling the cops on my pool closure would assert HOA control. Instead, she triggered law enforcement scrutiny, public embarrassment, and a $2.5 million HOA fine, all while my property remained secure and compliant. Karen tried to enforce her rules over my pool. Instead, she faced humiliation, legal consequences, and permanently lost HOA authority, proving once again that rogue HOA members cannot interfere with private property without severe repercussions.